Are the Lions the best team in the NFC after beating the Vikings?
It's hard to say no. Now, I still respect the Vikings. I still think the Vikings are a top 2, top 3 team in the NFC. Just because they lost this nail-biting game, I'm not dropping them. Oh, they're frauds. They're nasty. Sam Darnold started the game pretty poorly. He really bounced back in that second half. Now, a lot of my statistics have to do with the Detroit Lions because I want to give them their flowers. Because you lose Aiden Hutchinson, a guy who in his last full game versus the Seahawks had as many pressures as they did in this game versus the Minnesota Vikings. 15 by himself. He had what the team had. Now, it's been a very interesting spot for the Lions because early on in the season, they were winning games, but we weren't overly moved. You were extremely high on Jared Goff coming into the season.
My guy.
I was understanding. I was a little bit skeptical. He looked like, hey, Drew, you're looking pretty right. And then these last 3 weeks, he's been a god amongst men. He has, in these last 10 quarters, he's 48 of 55.
That's crazy.
That is stupid. 763 passing yards, 7 total touchdowns, no INT, 155.1 passer rating. Now, under pressure through week 7, this is really what's impressed me the most. Passing yards, 603, that's second most in the NFL. Yards per attempt, 11.6, that's number 1. Completion percentage, 72, that is number 1. Over expected, 9.6%, that's number 1. Passer rating, 125.7, that is number 1. And in these last 2 weeks, he has 2 incompletions under pressure, 324 yards, 4 touchdowns, 19 yards an attempt. This Lions team has also been amazing as a whole. Number 1 in DVOA right now, if I'm not mistaken. They're 4th on offense. They're 6th on defense. They just have it all right now. Their rush defense has been amazing. It looked okay, especially in its first game without Aiden Hutchinson. I just think Aaron Jones is a star. I just think he's one of the most underappreciated running backs and has been even from his time in Green Bay. He has been one of the most impactful players in free agency so far this year. He really is a different level difference maker for them. And again, I think Minnesota played an awesome game, especially in that second half. Big time plays, whether it was from Sam Darnold, that bomb to Jordan Addison, amazing catch by Jettis, an amazing fumble on Monty to go ahead and give them the lead. They had an opportunity to put this game away, but the Lions were resilient and have been a resilient team this season. I have to give them the nod, even without Aiden Hutchinson, because I still think there's a window for Max Crosby to be traded to them. They have a large number of possibilities and outcomes at this trade deadline to improve this roster. You have to give respect where credit is due. The Lions have been awesome, and especially on the road versus the last undefeated team in the NFC. Tip your cap. This is the best team in the game right now, or at least best team in the NFC. The Chiefs are still number 1, even though they're mid.
Yeah, I think the NFC right now, the NFL as a whole, maybe give the Chiefs that one benefit of the doubt, but usually over the last couple of years, there's been tiers, right? Like 49ers, best team in the league 2 years ago. It's the 49ers and Eagles, and then you have tier 2 and tier 3. Right now in the NFL, it's really hard to tier out these teams. Like, I do think as we stand right now, the Lions going on the road, winning in the fashion they did over the Vikings, who were undefeated, coming off a bye week, all the storylines, losing Hutchinson, they get the benefit of the doubt. They get the number 1 spot right now. But are they that much better than the Vikings? I mean, the Vikings will probably win the second game. Are they that much better than the Green Bay Packers? I think they'll end up splitting with the Green Bay Packers. When you look at really the NFC North, now I'm thinking about it because the 49ers are so banged up. Don't know if I really trust anyone in the NFC South or the NFC East, if I'm being honest. There is not one team that really stands out of the bunch. But the one thing that you could always hold your hat on when it comes to these Lions, and I said it earlier, the culture and the coaching that this team has is damn near second to none in the league right now. What Dan Campbell has been able to do, the very rare CEO head coach that ends up working out. I guess Tomlin has done that for years as well. But more often than not, the CEO head coaches, they don't work out because you usually need offense or defensive specialty to do that. But the Lions have that in abundance. The Aaron Glenn on the defensive side, of course we know what Ben Johnson does on the offensive side. But what's really changed, and you mentioned it, Drew, Jared Goff is playing at a top 10, arguably top 5 MVP level over these last 3 weeks of the season. He's cut down on the mistakes, even though he didn't have a ton of turnovers. He had a lot of turnover-worthy plays.
Yep.
He isn't holding on the ball too long. I mean, he's having games. He was 18 for 18 one game, 7 incompletions in the last 10 quarters. He's been damn near perfect. It got me feeling nicey because I have my fantasy team.
Cap.
He's been out of this world good. And you pair that with the best running back duo in the NFL in Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. And David Montgomery looks as good as he has ever looked in his NFL career. Of course, you have the weapons on the outside with Amon-Ra. Unfortunately, Jameson just got suspended for a couple of games. And Sam Laporta really hasn't gotten that involved in this offense yet either.
That is crazy to me.
So I am interested to see over the course of the season, what does this defense look like without Aiden Hutchinson? Because losing him, it's going to be a big loss, right? Minnesota was still able to move the ball. They put up 29 points, although one of those touchdowns was a fumble 6. But I think over the course of the season, the defense probably won't be the calling card of this team, but they're just so well coached. They're just such a unit. They feel so connected on both sides of the ball. They're as good as anyone in the NFC. God bless you. My only concern about them, and I have the same concern for these other teams, when you're that indoor team, you got to travel to Green Bay. Green Bay wins the division. You got to travel to Green Bay in January, and Jared Goff has to play Lambeau Field, 10 degrees outside. That's their biggest knock right now, is that Jared Goff having to play in those conditions scares the shit out of me. But, I mean, fucking their whole schedule basically is going to be dome games. So they have a real chance to get the number 1 seed, have home field advantage throughout. They're able to secure that. They could go all the way.
Right. Coming in this game, I had the Vikings winning. There's just no way to replace a defensive player of the year candidate like Aiden Hutchinson. And I think that's one thing to keep in mind with this Lions team, that the pass rush is definitely not going to be the same for the rest of this year. But to watch them on the road come back from down 10 points against the best team in the NFC and win that game, they are the best team in the conference. You can stamp that. The offense, the coaching, like you highlighted, and still the run defense maybe wasn't the best this last game, but you expect it to be premier every single week. And the secondary, Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph, allow those guys who have started to develop more and more and flourish. It is really talented. All things considered, there's just that one question of how are we able to at least replace some of the value that Aiden Hutchinson provided us, because he did have 4 sacks in this game, but it's just a sustainability thing week in and week out to where they're going to have to make some sort of move at the deadline. Maybe it's a smaller group of 1 or 2 moves, or it's that big blockbuster trade that a lot of people are saying maybe it's Max Crosby. I don't think it's all that likely, but to watch them be as dominant on the run in the running game as they have been, and also understanding that guys like Sam Laporta have not gotten going. Jameson Williams is out these next 2 games. You get him back into the lineup with Laporta going. Now you're looking at the best group of weapons in football at the end of the year. And like you guys highlighted before, you're getting high-level quarterback play. So I think right now in the NFC, the top 3 teams are all in the NFC North. But at the top of it, it's the Lions 1, it's the Vikings 2, and the Packers at 3.
A quick aside real quick. Jason Tatum is 5 for 7 from 3.
We could talk about that right after the segment.
Mikal Bridges is 0 for 5.
Sure, the question was never Jason Tatum's shoe in the regular season. It was a shoe in the playoffs.
I don't know why I tried to fix the jump shot. We'll definitely talk about that after this segment, because I want to talk about it. The Lions can do something that other teams in the NFC can't at the level that they can. They can run the football at an elite level. Mm-hmm. No other team in the NFC can run the football like them. They have a dominant offensive line up front. It's been a bit vulnerable in pass protection, but as a run blocking unit, they're stonewalls. And Jahmyr Gibbs with David Montgomery, that's
Sonic
the
and
best
Knuckles
1-2 punch in the NFL. That's something that no other NFC can hang their hat on, like the Lions can hang on their run game. And when you get the run game going, Jared Goff can play action, that opens up the field, and you just get explosive plays out of that. I thought what really broke the Lions' offense open against the Vikings was the Jahmyr Gibbs touchdown run.
Yep.
The first play out of that touchdown run was under center, play action, 17-yard gain to Amon-Ra St. Brown. And it got the Vikings out of their exotic blitz looks, because now they're not able to send pressure because you have established the run. Yep. And I think that's the game plan that teams are going to use against Minnesota moving forward. With that being said, I think the Lions are the second best team in the NFC. I don't think they're number 1. I think number 1 is Green Bay. I think the Packers are the best team in the NFC. The Lions, though, because they can pass the ball efficiently, Jared Goff is on an unreal heater. He has been elite against pressure. He's playing like an MVP candidate right now. Because they have an offense that is so elite, it's going to keep them in games. I still worry about that edge rusher position. There's going to be some stars potentially available. You mentioned Max Crosby, Myles Garrett might also be on the block.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah, but the Browns are in sell mode.
Damn straight.
They don't have a choice right now. They have so much money in dead cap that it might be better off for them to start off fresh. But the Lions can very well fix their team. I do like that on the interior defensive line with DJ Reader and Lee McNeil. They can get after the passer at a high rate. And that is a weakness of the Vikings offensive line, and that was an area that the Lions were able to thrive in. But without an opposite edge rusher, without a real edge rushing presence, I think the Lions will struggle to get pressure on the other top teams in the NFC, like the Green Bay Packers, who are very good in pass protection. But I also want to highlight Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph. That's one of the best safety duels in football.
Them or Green Bay?
Green Bay, Xavier McKinney, Evan Williams.
Those are top two.
It's a toss-up between either of them. You could go either way. But Brian Branch, he plays more than a nickel. He has been so elite. The interception he had on Sam Darnold was out of this world.
Yeah.
And Darnold, he had Aaron Jones wide open on check down. That could have been a touchdown that he missed.
I'm watching it. I'm just like, okay, this is an easy completion. Doesn't even look at him.
I like the Vikings a lot. I do. I just don't know if I can trust Sam Darnold for the entirety of the season. And last year, the Vikings defense started off elite. And then teams kind of started figuring them out a little bit in the second half. And teams started scoring a lot of points on them. I don't think that's going to happen this year because they have better corner play. But the Vikings, unless they get an upgraded quarterback, the Matthew Stafford rumors I know are up in the air right now. That's when I can really fully buy into them. But the Lions, I think they're the second best team in the NFC right now. And before the season, my pick was the Packers or the Lions. Even without Aiden, I think this team can go to the Super Bowl.
Great.
Hey, we're on our way to year 2. Who knows?
The Packers are right there.
But we're going to talk about the Packers and their rush defense.
Real quick, before we move on to the next segment, how would you rank the NFC North right now until the end of the year?
NFC North is the Lions. It's Green Bay, Minnesota, Chicago.
I'm with that. I'd have the same list.
I'd go Packers, Lions, Vikings, Bears.
Because I believe by the end of the year, the Packers will be the best team in this division. But right now, watching the Vikings beat the Packers, how well they played through 6 weeks, I would have it Lions 1, Vikings 2, Packers 3. But out of that group, the Packers clearly had the most upside to me. Because I think their pass rush has the ability to get a lot better between now and then compared to the Lions. Because the Packers do have the pieces and the personnel. I think it's them kind of developing their talent in a brand new scheme and adjusting to what they're doing currently. And then at the same exact time, I think what you highlighted before is pretty true. The Vikings do have clearly the least trustworthy quarterback play out of this group of 3 teams.
Yeah, also, the quarterback play definitely, if you want to say upside, the Packers have it. But also the downside, because Jordan Love, we know, could have games he throws 3 interceptions, right? But also for the Detroit Lions, we know Jared Goff can have games where he just looks flustered and he doesn't look good in the pocket and he can make mistakes. And of course, Sam Darnold at any given time could throw an interception too. So Jordan Love gives you the upside those other guys don't, even though Jared Goff's playing out of his mind right now. But the downside that Jordan Love gives you, it's kind of on the same bar with the rest of these guys.
That's crazy. No.
What?
He has 8 INTs and missed 2 games.
Bro,
and
of those
the
8
INT
interceptions, how many of them have been Jordan Love?
A few of them. Especially
Half?
the 2 that he threw
4 of
versus
those
the
8?
Texans.
Maybe 4 of those 8 have been
Half have been his fault.
Well, I'm not saying in a negative light. He just takes a lot of chances. He has a great arm. He's mobile. He should be taking these chances,
lot
but
of
it's
his
going to
say, you know my opinion on that.
Not been.
I am okay with the quarterback
I'm not-
trusting their arm.
I'm not saying
I thought the first interception, what was it?
It was over in the middle of the field.
Okay, then I'm talking about the second one.
Uh-huh.
It was a stick route, and the Texans corner just made an
he
excellent
jumped
play.
it. Yeah.
He just really made an excellent play that, it's still an interception, but I'm fine with it. I don't think Jordan Love's going to throw that many interceptions. Against the Cardinals, he shouldn't have thrown 1.
He's got to lock in. He's at 8.
Yeah, but he's
8's
also
a lot.
He's number 2 in touchdowns?
He's been a dog.
Yeah.